Hello world, welcome back to Accelerate and welcome to Liam's Mazda RX8 R3.
Yeah, now when these were released in 2003, they were controversial.
We have got a great example here, so what we want to know is it worth buying one in 2024? If you want to spark controversy among petrol heads, bring up the RX8. Whether they love it or hate it, it'll be an interesting discussion. The RX8 is a sports coupe created by Mazda that ran from 2003 all the way to 2012. Many things made the RX8 stand out from its rivals. The most controversial was possibly the quoted 1.3-litre rotary-wankel engine. This was offered in two power outputs, around 190 brake horsepower and around 230 brake horsepower. The styling was also considered a tad controversial when released. In 2003, when the RX8 came out, the curved lines made it look uber modern, and I think even today in 2024, because of the curved line, because of the bulges, it really does still look modern today. And my next point, the suicide rear door, which is one of the main things that made these cars popular. I mean, apart from a Rolls Royce, when was the last time you saw them? That still blows me away now.
The front wings remind me a lot of the S2000. You know, it's that sort of era of the Japanese cars. They were quite flared, quite bulgy.
Going for the muscly look, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, yeah, even though they weren't muscle cars, but hey-ho. But yeah, a couple of things I want to point out the difference between the R3 compared to the standard RX8. First things noticeable is the 19-inch forged wheels.
Because the originals came on 18s and that was considered a big wheel, but back then to have forged 19s is pretty impressive. Wheels,
exactly. It has a lot nicer rear bumper. You have the side skirts, and the front aero is actually a lot nicer. It's a lot lower, a lot deeper.
It ties in really well with it, doesn't it?
It does. It flows so well as well. It's all like leveled right. It's all perfect.
It sits right, and that's also thanks to the Bilstein shocks, which is one of what I consider the biggest upgrades for the R3.
Yeah, well, the handling on these cars anyway were really good, but obviously it sharpened it up, stiffened it up a lot more with the Bilstein.
The thing I love about the RX8, a lot of the parts you look at around here is very typical Mazda, but they have done a great job of modernising it. You've got things, yes, you have got your typical Japanese scratchy plastics, but then you look at the things like the dials and things like aspects like that to me just look like sports car-esque. And I like how they've had a bit of a personality with this. For those that don't know, there are many videos on YouTube what a rotary engine is compared to a piston engine, and they've got little hints of that all around the interior. Main thing is the gear knob. I don't know what they were thinking with the handbrake, but I was
just about to mention that. When I looked through the window of it, I was like, that's really cool. It's pointless, but that's really cool.
I'm sure there is a reason for it, and I'd love to know why. So if any of you guys know, let us know. This generation of Mazda, the amount of toys on this thing, Liam was telling us it's got cruise control, it's got all of your audio controls on the steering wheel, it's got automatic climate control with air conditioning. Some things you would kind of expect. It's got the 6-disc changer with hands-free Bluetooth. Some more funky things goes back to, I don't know what they were thinking. You've got your sun visors, and the idea of a sun visor is to block the sun, but yet they've perforated them so the sun actually still comes through. So I'd love to know what they were thinking about that as well.
But there is a large mirror in the center by the look of it.
And I do believe it's on the driver's side as well. So if you're having a nice cruise down the Alps and you want to see how cool you look, you can. I don't advise it, but you can flip down and have a look. So one of the main features on this car that stands out from its competition was the rear suicide door. There's a couple of funky quirks to go with it. A lot of people don't realise you can't actually open the rear door without opening the front. And although people would see that as an inconvenience, if you think of this car as a coupe with the benefit of a rear door, then I think you'll be fine. But to open it, because a lot of people won't get to experience this, it is literally as simple as a nice chunky handle there so you can't miss it. And I am going to embarrass myself and try and squeeze in there. This is where Liam has his driving position. I think he's a bit taller than me, but we'll see if we can get what I'm going to consider fully grown adult in the back. Okay, so although the knee room, my knee is touching the back, they've done a great job. The roof line, it's not claustrophobic. You have got the lovely armrest with a giant transmission tunnel in this car. You've got leather touches where you can rest your arms. So overall, I'm quite impressed with it. These cars were considered GT cars and designed for touring. Another thing that is evident of that is what is known as the ski access there, so you can put your skis or any larger items when you are on your trip to the Alps. Another great touch for the rear, I mean, surely Mazda would have known that not many people are going to sit back here, but they've still equipped with 2 cup holders just there as well. One of the main benefits of the rear suicide doors, going back to the coupe thing I was on about, in any coupe you'd have to fold the front seat forward. With this, you simply step out I really like. A lot of people call it a gimmick. I think they're really good.
Talking about luggage space, it does have what looks like quite a big space. However, it's only about 290 litres. Now, the competitor to this, the Audi TT Mark 1...
Which is a terrible car.
Yes, it's shocking. But it does have more storage space. It actually has 305, so 15 litres more, even though it's a lot smaller car. So even though it does have what looks like quite a bit of space, the entry gap actually to get in here is very, very narrow. So if you've got a large item, it's going to be a bit awkward. And obviously, lifting to load in is a bit of more of a struggle.
Before we hit the road, we caught up with the owner, Liam, to get his personal views of ownership on this peculiar choice of cars. And yes, he daily drives this thing. What car did you have previous to this?
So my previous car was a R53 Mini Cooper S.
What made you go from a supercharged little front-wheel drive hot hatch to a rear-wheel drive sports car?
To be honest, I think I just wanted something different, but my dream car is an RX-7. I feel like this is a good stepping stone into the
Absolutely.
rotary engines.
What surprised me is that you've actually bought this thing to daily it. So first of all, how many miles have you put on it, and what's it been like comparing it to your previous Mini Cooper?
Well, I bought this in January, so since then I've already put 2,000 miles on it. The fuel costs are probably the biggest issue with dailying it, but compared to the Mini, it's a lot more comfortable to drive. So it's a lot nicer to drive on back roads, towns, anywhere really.
We're in 2024 now. How much did this Mazda RX8 R3 cost you?
The market seems to range between 5 grand to 9 grand, so you can get a mint example with really low miles for 9. This one I picked up for about 6 grand.
What's your favourite point about the car?
Well, I think it's the best point that everybody buys an RX8 for, really, isn't it? It revs to 9,500. you can't fault that, can you?
What is your least favourite point?
For me, it's the tax. For this, it costs £700 a year to tax.
And it is a 2009. I do believe the earlier ones didn't suffer as much, but this is the later one.
Yeah.
So that, as a buyer, that is definitely something to look into. 4 months into ownership, give us an overall opinion of yours for owning a rotary-powered Mazda RX-8.
Very fun. I can't fault it. I mean, everybody says about the reliability on these things, that they're not very reliable. I'm yet to prove that. I've done 2,000 miles in it already, like I'm daily in it. Only downside to daily in it is just keeping up with the fuel costs, really.
When you first sit in the driver's seat, it really does give you the feel of a sports car. And touching on what Kenny said, the touch points are done really well to make it feel like a sports car. You've got the low-down shifter, and not only that, it has got a typical short shifter you want and expect from a sports car. Liam was saying to us, the chassis of this was based on the Mazda MX-5, the Mark III. A lot of the parts are cross-compatible. And the steering wheel is definitely one of those, I do believe it is the same steering wheel, but it's got that fantastic feel of the leather. Yeah. And where you're sat in these Recaros, now I've always said, when you get a company like Mazda that partner up with companies like Recaro and Bilstein, you've got Bilstein taking up all of the hardware from the bumps, but you're held in with these Recaro. I mean, what a package when you get companies like that working together.
It works so well, and obviously Mazda have always been fantastic at building a good chassis and a great handling car.
Best car ever is the MX-5, so that's for...
Yeah, debatable. Wrong completely, but yeah. But no, it does feel really good.
Now, fortunately, we'll say we are experienced in your lower torque, high revving cars.
Yeah.
And once it gets going, for me, it's that feeling of looking down and watching that needle go all the way and telling yourself, do not change until you see that flashing at 9,000 RPM, which is what gets the adrenaline going in a car like this. This reminds me, I just feel like I'm playing Gran Turismo when you look down and see the rev needle going. Oh my God, you can stay flat out. The initial turning response is absolutely incredible.
It's great, isn't it?
So it gives you, you literally jumped into this thing. Do you know, because you know it's got the Bilsteins, you know you've got a good setup.
Yeah.
You can just throw it around and you can just stay in one bleeding gear. I haven't had to change. Well, again, a lot of people praise the chassis, and we always refer to Liam, one of our friends who had one many years ago. He used to love getting it sideways because of the mixture of the linear power band and the chassis. He loved going sideways. You can get grip when you want, you can get it to slide when you want.
Yep.
And I completely get it now. Like, this just feels like that, but more modern with the touches of the seats and everything.
Yeah, basically, it's just a modernized version of the original RX-8.
Yeah. And driving it normal, because Liam bought this thing to daily, because of the smoothness, I can't emphasize the smoothness of the engine for daily driving.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't got much NVH coming through, because considering it's a sports car,
Yeah.
everything is okay. If it wasn't for the fuel bill, I'd probably give one of these a go.
Tax.
And the tax.
That little beep, so polite.
Yeah,
Change gear for me, please.
You're ragging it. You'd expect it to be like, come on, change gear.
No, yeah, but it's like, excuse me, time to go. But yeah, power delivery is what I'm expecting. It's not rapid, although it is quite pulsating to get it, you know, all the way up to red line. Right, so about 5 minutes trying to get up this hill with the lack of torque. However, the car itself does feel very, very nimble, and I love the turning on this thing. I gotta be honest, yeah, there's no torque. We were expecting that. But fun factor, and the grip really, really does feel nice.
It feels very composed.
It does. It is very predictable as well. And it just wants to keep revving, and like I said, the steering and everything, man, it's nice. It's weighted really, really well.
Yeah, it feels it.
It does, and it does feel very nimble. The chassis feels amazing, I gotta be honest.
I've said the RX8 was always complimented for its chassis.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah.
It is very, very nimble. It feels light. The car feels light, you know, compared to the TT. Which feels quite heavy and sluggish.
Yeah.
You know, this does feel a bit more alive. Now, it didn't feel super fast going up there, but it didn't feel super slow either.
No.
You know? But the car itself, I really love how small this gear stick is. The seats are super, super supportive. The engine noise is intoxicating.
It's very, very different and is
Yes.
very, very unique.
Yeah, like I said, it's not going to win any awards for drag racing, but once again, we don't expect that.
No.
But I honestly do feel like you could really, really throw this thing around and just grab it by the horns.
Yeah.
You know, and that's exactly what this car's all about. So I think it's got a bit of a thumbs up from me so far.
Yeah, it is good.
Yes, it's not all about power. I've always said that. You can have something which is 600 brake horsepower and be a pig to drive. Whereas you've got something like this, you can use every single rev that you want.
Yes. It just revs forever.
What I like the most about this car is when you want it to just cruise, it'll do it happily, but it's also really responsive when you want to have
It is
a bit of
Jekyll and
fun.
Hyde, because I was literally just about to say, we've got to remember, this is your daily, and look how much fun you can have going up a mountain road. So, after spending a few hours with the RX8, we want to know, is it worth buying in 2024? And I want your opinion first.
I would say, obviously, due to the current market with second-hand cars being so expensive, for a sports car, I think that it's pretty good value for money for around 6k. It does pretty much everything you want. The only thing I would put me off is the tax. I could deal with the fuel. It's just a tax that could really...
Tax is a killer.
Yes.
The fuel bill is not too bad, because you know, the more you put in, the more fun you're getting out. Tax is just throwing money away.
Oh.
So I would agree in the sense of, if you're looking for a sports car, and what I would consider quite a practical sports car in 2024, with the way prices are going, especially Japanese car prices.
Exactly.
The way you've got the Recaro bits, you've got some very good bits on this car as well, but please keep in mind, you have got they do burn through oil, you've got the tax, and you've got the high fuel bill. But if you can deal with that...
And you're probably going to have to make sure you've got a couple of grand spare, because it's going to need a build at some point.
Yeah, every 50 to 60,000 miles.
Yeah.
They say they're due to go. Liam's looking to be terrified behind the camera now.
But I know he's pretty much expecting it. I know a few people have had these and say, oh, it's never had a build for 100k. You've been lucky.
Yeah, you have. But it does help if you're handy with the spanners, and it does sound like Liam is.
There we go.
So if you can fight all of that, then we would say, what a package, what a car. car they've built.
You got the, you know, the 4 doors, 4 seats for the kids.
Family car, see?
Great, exactly.
If you want to convince the missus, it's a family car.
There we go.
But we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.
This is gonna go boom!
I was waiting for that.
I'm sorry.